Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Jenna Cottrell alongside Dan Fates here on a beautiful fall Wednesday after a Bills practice. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as this channel continues to grow. We have tried to turn the page here on the channel after the Bills' embarrassing loss in Jacksonville. Jenna, what was the vibe like today at practice? Because it felt different.
It definitely did, and I felt like the vibe reflected how badly the Bills got beat on Sunday. I feel like it was a very buttoned-up practice. It was business time. It wasn't dancing. It wasn't joking. It wasn't laughing. It was like, all right, boys, we got a job to do. And you saw that reflected in just the seriousness, I would say, in which the guys were running through things, which is what you want to see after what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, I even tweeted, take it for what it's worth, but there was no dancing today. And some people were like, oh, good, enough of that stuff. The Bills danced all last year. They danced in the playoffs. Take it for what it's worth. It was just an observation that, look, they've also got some guys out on COVID protocol. They've got some guys injured. It was just a different feel. There was way less joking at practice, a much more business-like, like you said, feel of, hey, we're here to get things done and get better and kind of get back to work. I think it's been maybe the bye week lingered just an extra week into this.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Miami game that felt like the bye week lingered. And
it's a long bye week.
It's been a couple weeks of a bye week. Who gets a vacation like that? But no, I will say I was happy with the way the guys were. In terms of, I felt like they were taking things serious. I think that they were, like, when we got to talk to, Stephon Diggs after practice and Josh Allen and Jordan Poyer, it wasn't like I don't want to say cockiness that we've seen, but, last week going into this Jacksonville game, it was like, hey, positive things, good things are going, which is great. But I felt like this time around, everyone was more buttoned up and they were more talking about how these are the frustrations we're dealing with. This is how we are dealing with them. This is the tone and manner in which we're going to go about fixing it.
It's almost like you don't believe you have issues when you keep winning, and the Bills squeaked by.
I was actually very happy that they lost because, hear me out.
That's a hot take.
Hear me out, yeah. I mean, in terms of it being AFC loss, all those things. But I think you can get away with things when the final result is a win. When you walk away from that field and you lose 9-6 to Jacksonville, there's no escaping the honest conversations that have needed to be had.
I agree.
So that is one of the positives that can come away from it.
I completely agree. You said you can learn a lot more in a loss than a win. You'd like to kind of learn as you win and go along, but that wasn't the case. On the field at practice today, the Bills injury report, it looks like a phone book. 7, 8, 9 guys on it, Jenna. He's got it here in front of you.
Yeah. So Cole Beasley, another guy who did not practice due to a veteran off day on Wednesday, but McDermott also saying it could be related to the rib injury that he had.
He said it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. Tremaine Edmonds popping up. Sean McDermott said it's a hamstring issue that's coming after the Jacksonville game. That's obviously someone that's a big piece of that Bills defense. That's someone that you worry about. Jaquan Johnson with a hamstring injury, he was limited. Taron Johnson with a concussion, he was listed as limited at practice.
Yeah, he was in a red non-contact jersey. He was out there. Zach Moss is the other big one.
Yeah, he did not practice. He has a concussion. He's dealing with that. Justin Zimmer, we've seen him on the injury report before. But Zach Moss is one of those players that you're like, okay, that's a piece of this Bills offense that we've needed to see more from in terms of the run game. Two encouraging things, though. Spencer Brown back to practicing in a limited capacity, as well as Dawson Knox. We know those have been, with the way the line played last week, and then with the way the Bills offense played in general, Dawson Knox will be a nice boost if he's ready.
Yeah, both those guys went back through the team drills early on where they kind of do the walkthrough and were able to be at practice. Both of those guys were out there, so that was an encouraging sign because, look, the offensive line can't get much worse than what it was in Jacksonville as Josh Allen was running around for his life.
Yeah.
The players we got to talk to today, I feel like we talked about how this practice was much more somber, much more business-like. Maybe somber is the wrong word. Just business-like.
Yeah.
Matter of fact.
Yeah.
They were out there to get better. This wasn't a time to hang out. It was a time to get to work. I think that was completely predicated off of what we heard from Sean McDermott as this press conference before practice. If he was anything like what he was to the players as he was talking to us, it was a very stern press conference that we heard from Sean McDermott.
I think McDermott is such a buttoned up guy when he's in season. He's very I don't want to say direct because I feel like he's
guarded.
Guarded is the perfect word. he was candid with us today, specifically about the run game, about the offensive line, and about how they need to be better. If they're the team that they want to become, they have to be better. They have to be more efficient running the football. And I loved this line from McDermott, and I want to quote it directly because I think this is like what a lot of fans are worried about or thinking about. I can promise you adjustments are being made. And I said earlier, when you see that, whether you see them or not, that's what good teams do. It's every season you have to adjust with the team you have. But I can promise you adjustments are being made. You don't hear Sean McDermott normally talk like that.
Yeah, he uses other cliches, but he said it a couple times that good teams make adjustments, and that's what we need to do, and that's what we're trying to do.
And he also talked how the run game being a missing piece wasn't just last week. He referenced it going back to not just the Steelers' loss, but last season, at the end of last year. And that is, like, McDermott calling that out is not something we're used to having.
Yeah, we're kind of asking him about just the struggles of trying to get a running game going. And are you seeing defenses play you accordingly? And he says from defensive standpoint, you want to make teams one-dimensional.
Yeah.
The Bills, for the last year and a half, have been kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah.
It's something that I've actually enjoyed about them because the offense has ridden through Josh Allen, but he just said that it makes things so much more difficult. And he goes, pretty much what the gist was is that you need teams to respect that you can run the ball. And he was blatantly saying that teams are not respecting us in that realm. And it was a very stern comment to hear.
Yeah, but he's right. I mean, that's how you have to play offense in the NFL. Look, do we want the ball to be run through or to be going through Josh Allen's arm all the time? Mm-hmm. Sure. But at the same point, you need to keep defenses honest. You have to have not a dynamic run game, but an efficient run game.
Yep.
You literally have to go back a month to have a Bills rusher have at least 40 yards.
Yep.
Like, that is a concern, especially where you're at in the season. You look where you want to go, where you're at, there's a pretty large gap there.
Yeah, and the other thing that really stood out to me as we talk about breaking down Josh Allen and his struggles last week, where he said, he used expletives to describe how he played in all of those things. The other thing I thought was very telling is that defenses are now playing them a very similar way throughout this year. It's a cover two shell. They're not letting anybody get over the top of them, and they're forcing them to take anything underneath because they don't have to worry about the run, so you're not putting your safeties into the box to try and protect against the run because the Bills can't run the ball. So they're forcing Josh to do this, and I asked Josh, and Josh gave me one answer, and Stephon Diggs gave another. I asked Josh, you hear a lot of times about playing quarterback position, doing the boring things.
Yeah.
You see all these highlight reel plays when 90% of the game has to be boring, that you have to take. You know who's done it?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady's been a boring quarterback for most of his career, and it wins. And you take what the defense gives you, and we've used the expression before on this channel about taking the cheese. Josh wasn't doing that. He wasn't trusting that. He was trying to get this bigger play. I asked him how frustrating it is to consistently do the boring things. And he says it's not. That's what you have to do. You have to find the open guy. That's what it is. Stephon Diggs was asked about it, and he's like, yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It is frustrating to take the boring throw all the time. He goes, I want to go deep. This offense wants to go deep. Josh is a big play guy. He's got the big arm.
Yeah.
It's so tough in the heat of the moment. And again, people want to talk about it's the play calling. People want to talk about it's this or it's that. It comes down to the players on the field. I don't think this is on Brian Daboll. I think this is more on just these guys doing the boring things enough to, like your point, once they respect the run.
Yes, then it opens up everything. Then that opens up the passing game. It opens up those big play opportunities. We know that this team likes to take their shots, but at downfield, big chunk plays. But again, when you have everyone in front of you, it's so much easier for a defense as opposed to being like, oh, snap, he could go over the top of me. I need to see, okay, is there the ability for me to have to rush up to, make a tackle? All of these things. I thought it was just, Sean McDermott was asked about Dion Dawkins, the play from his left tackle. What has he seen? He's like, look, Dion needs to be better. He's been okay. He's been good at points, but that's no secret.
Yeah, and you could say that probably going up and down. Besides the defense has still played very well, albeit against lesser competition.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If someone were to tell me the score from Sunday and they'd be like, hey, the Bills defense only gave up 9 points, I'd be like, well, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you tell me, well, the Bills offense only scored 6 points, I'd be like, what is going on? My thing is, though, too, the Bills didn't address running back in the offseason. They really didn't. They signed Breida, but, you didn't draft another guy. I'm not shocked they're having these issues because last year, like McDermott said, at the end of the year, they really struggled to consistently run the ball, and then they really didn't address it in the offseason. Yep. So these are just honest questions and concerns, and I understand why people are having them.
It's not panic button time. It's time to get things right. The panic button's out.
The panic button is out. Now, again.
Spicy Jenna today.
Seriously, I had that coffee.
Yeah.
Now, again, we're halfway through the season, and I think this Bills team is a team that has the maturity to turn the page. But at the same point, that loss was brutal.
Yep.
And that loss changes the way people around the league look at you.
And I'll say to that, as we asked Jordan Poyer about it, he said that we're making a much bigger deal about this Jacksonville loss, that they are over it. They have turned the page days ago. We will see if that is the case down in the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, if they have turned the page.
I feel like it's like when you like trip over something and all your friends laugh at you and you're like, come on guys, it really wasn't like that big of a deal. And it's like, no, it was hilarious. That's my analogy.
It's a really good analogy, and we will finish on that as the sun is setting here in Buffalo. Again, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. More coverage throughout the week as we check in on the injury report, all of those things, interviews, tons more up on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. For Jenna Cottrell, I'm Dan Fates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.